So far, we've brought in our terrain, which is a racetrack, and we've also got our little fella here that comes in by default, and he's always handy just for comparing relative sizes of things. So now what we need to do is we need to bring in a race car, and the one that I have chosen is a Mini Cooper, which is a beautiful model, and it has something wrong with it that I'm going to use to teach you another characteristic here of Sketcher Studio. So let's bring that car in. Now, that particular car is actually saved on our hard drive. It's not at 3D Warehouse, though I did originally download it from 3D Warehouse. But it's a large model. It actually is about 21 megabytes in size. It takes a little while to download, and so I already have downloaded it, and I thought I would just use it to show you how to load a model off of your hard drive instead of using 3D Warehouse. So before we click the button that says 3D Warehouse down here, this time what we're going to do is we're going to add a model by pressing the plus button. So this plus button, what it does is it will open up a Finder window that allows you to open the document, and it'll put it in here on its own row. The minus button, of course, would delete the selected row, and then this one here will basically refresh the model that you have if you should need to update the model, and this is just one way of doing that. We'll look at that more later. So let's just click the plus button for now, and then we'll navigate to where this model was saved, and I've already got it saved right here. It's a Mini Cooper, and as you can see, like I told you, it's 21.2 megs, so it's kind of large. But let's just go ahead and open it up by clicking the open button. This is taking a while to convert, and that's because it's a really complex model. It has a lot of detail in it. That's why its file size is so long, because it's got lots of vertices and lines and things like that in it, and this is going to have to convert it into a format that Sketcher Studio can use internally, which is what it's now doing. And then once it's done converting, it will open it up for us in the Origin setting window. Now, believe it or not, it's in here, but we can't see it right now. And this is that problem that I was mentioning a moment ago. When you import models that are very large, that is to say when they've been scaled up to a really, really large size, you may not be able to see them when you first import them in here. Now I'm just going to give you an idea of how large this is. It's going to blow your mind. Watch this. I'm going to click Apply. I'm going to bring it in at 100% of the size that it was saved at by the person who created this in SketchUp. I'll click Apply, and it'll bring it into our model here. But when it does, it's going to be enormous. Now you can't see it here because it's sitting a little bit off center, but if I press the comma key, we've already got the dolly key selected, and if I start backing off, just keep backing up, more and more and more, back up, back up, back up. Here it comes. It's saved at a huge scale. So we have to fix that. First of all, I guess what we'll do is we'll scale it down using Sketcher Studio. So let's just kind of come back in here to our model for now and kind of get positioned here. The car is still selected. You can see it's highlighted in blue here, so we know it's still selected. And so let's bring it into our model. Let's do that first. So I'm going to click up here for the origin settings for our Mini Cooper. I'm going to change its scale, and I'm going to scale it way down. I'm going to take it down to 0.01% of its normal size. Hit Enter or Return. You can't see it update here yet, but we'll see it in a moment. I'll click the Apply button, and it's in here, but where is it? Oops. See where my mouse is pointing? I'll zoom in here, and there's that car down there. Now it's too small. Uh-oh. But notice here how it's offset from the origin. Well, that relationship of the size of the car and its distance from the origin was mirrored in the last occasion when we looked at it when it was enormous, and it was actually sitting outside of the park here because of the offset 2 was relative to the scaling. So we're going to have to fix this again. So we'll come in here and we'll click on Origin Settings. And let's change the scaling from 0.01 to 0.1. Hit Enter or Return. As you can see now, the car is larger. Now you can also see here that the car is not centered on the origin. So as I click the Rotate button here, let me back off a little bit so we can see this happening. As I click the Rotate button, it's rotating around the center that it was offset from when it was saved. So remember, in SketchUp, the world origin is the center of your SketchUp world. This car was saved off of the offset, and it was off of the origin by this amount, and so it's actually rotating around this center point here. So we could fix this in one of two ways. We could either click this button here and center it, but then if we want to rotate it again, it's going to jump off. We can center it again, but we'll always have that problem. It won't be rotating around its common center. So what I want to do is for now, I'm going to point it in this direction, and just like we did, I'm centering it. I'll click Apply for now, and that puts the car in our scene. And now I'll double click here on the roadway so that we can kind of center things up. And I'll back off my camera a little bit and maybe use the hand tool. I just hit the letter H so that I can see the car. Now we have the car at about the right scale now, but if we're in the model here and I click the Rotate button up here, it will rotate properly around that center. If I click this button here, it also changes its orientation. So in this particular case, the car will still rotate around its own internal center, and that's because when we brought it in here, we centered it. So we now have our car in this in our scene here. And with our car in here, this would be a good place to save. So I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Command key and then hit the letter S, and that'll bring up our Save As dialog. And I'm going to rename this 3, and I'll save it back in the same place as the other models, and we'll save it. And that's all we'll do here, and then when we come back in the next movie, we're going to animate the car.